Hey, let me walk you through my planning spreadsheets that I made to share with Alana. Alana's amazing. She basically takes my ideas and makes them real. So she's basically the brains of the outfit right now, and she's bringing everything to you. So thanks, Alana, if you're watching. If you're watching this and you love Alana, you should tag her in this video and tell her how great the curriculum is, because I swear without her, there would not be a curriculum being put out, because it's a lot of work. So, I will start with Cycle 1, Phase 4, and then we'll look at Cycle 2. So that's narration. So we've got Cycle 2, Phase 1, Phase 2, Phase 3, and Phase 4. And then this is Cycle 3, Phase 1, which is what I'm now working on. So I'm pretty excited about that, because it's always nice to turn the corner and have a little change of pace. So let's look at Cycle 1, Phase 4. So in Cycle 1, Phase 4, it is basically still description, and it's like kind of a culminating experience for the kids, because you're describing in the present and the past. So you're kind of moving on to talking about it, to describing things in the past, which will of course necessitate you using some past tense. But the idea is that it's very easy for the students. Like, a lot of teachers, when they first start introducing the past tense, especially in first year, they get a little worried, like, ooh, how are the kids going to know? Because they've never studied the past tense before. How are they going to know when we're talking about the present versus the past? And so the reason that I put this at the end of Cycle 1 is to, one, like, build a bridge, because of course when you're telling stories, there's going to be a lot of past tense in the narration of the story. And then there'll be still a lot of present tense in the dialogue and the thinking and stuff that the characters are doing. So it's for the next, all the rest of the cycles, there's an intermixing of the present and the past tense. And I would highly recommend that even if you teach first year and it's new for you to like start using the past tense this early, that you go ahead and start using it, because you'll expose your students to the past tense for a longer period of time. It's not like you're going to hold them accountable or expect that they are going to be perfect at using the past tense, just so that they can develop more of a sort of sense of how it sounds right when they do start, like, actually, maybe potentially some schools getting held accountable for the past tense. Usually that's end of the year, first year, but most schools seem to be in second year when that's a big focus. So this is a way for it. So you're kind of building a bridge and just kind of getting yourself and the students comfortable with like this navigating the present and the past. And then also another goal is for them to be introduced to the past tense in this very like concrete way. So we're describing the present. Obviously, this is present. And then it's very clear, like, because usually the tasks in here are comparing the present and the past, like, this is past and this is present. So it's like even a visual signal to the students, like, this is all in the past. So if they hear like that the verbs sound different or other things sound different, they'll be able to more easily conceptualize that, because the task is organized like to signal to them that this is the past. Another thing that I want to say, like, that sometimes teachers bring up is that, like, they just don't want to confuse their kids, which is totally normal. However, the brain is actually primed for the concept of like presentness, pastness, and futureness. Many linguists subscribe to Noam Chomsky's theory or hypothesis or construct of universal grammar. Some don't, some do, and some partially subscribe and, don't find that it explains everything. But it is a useful concept in this idea that the brain is primed for pastness. And so if it does indeed exist a universal grammar, it would include that the fact that our brains are thinking like, okay, there's going to be something in this language that expresses like the temporality of when things happen. And then within those three main tenses, past, present, and future, there's all these different, aspects or moods or both that can combine. So in the present tense in English, we have the simple present, I talk to the camera. The present progressive, I am talking to the camera. We have a lot of modals in English and other Germanic languages, like I want to talk to the camera, I wish to talk to the camera, I should be talking to the camera, and all of those, and the subjunctive, like, like, dear Lord, that I talk to the camera every day, please make it so. We don't really have a lot of subjunctive, but sometimes we say, like, may it be so, or whatever. But generally, and also in English, the subjunctive, you don't really hear it very much because it doesn't sound different from I am talking, or I talk. May I talk to the camera? Let it, make it that I talk to the camera. Like, it's I talk. So we don't really notice, even if it is kind of under the surface there. So anyways, with those three big tenses, like past, present, and future, which are the tenses, like present progressive is not a tense. It's a aspect in the indicative mood of the present tense. Present tense is anything happening in the present. So anyway, the brain is primed for all of this. We don't have to consciously even know it. So please don't be concerned, like, oh no, I'm introducing the past tense. If you're like, somehow, some schools have this, like the colleagues have all made this agreement that like nobody's going to talk about the past tense in first year because some colleague of the second year, maybe even you, is concerned that like they'll be exposed to too much, and like you'll have kids from one teacher who know all about the past tense, and then the kids from the other teacher like never heard it, and they don't want that to happen. So in that case, you can always feel free to change and modify what's happening in this to not really dwell too much on the past. Or when you speak about the past, you could talk in the present tense. For instance, like if you're comparing like trends now and in the past, you could say like, now we like our phones. And then you could like say like, you could tell your kids like, when I stand over here, I'm going to be like 1980s Tina. And you're like and so then you're like talking in the present, like in the 1980s, you might even have some, neon colored headband or something like that. You put your Jane Fonda and your Cindy Crawford like look on and stand over there, just some prop that shows like I'm 1980s me now, and like in the 1980s we don't have cell phones. That sounds cool. So like you could change the presentation of what you're doing to not necessarily have to use the past tense. Also, something else is that, especially if you're in curriculum club, you can go in and even modify like the graphics if you really, really are committed to not touching the past tense. But unless you have some kind of like, your integrity is on the line because there's like this agreement, or just unspoken like thing where nobody touches the past tense. Like if that is the case, you might want to rethink that agreement or explain to your colleagues like why it's good to expose them to the past tense, because the more they hear it, the easier it's going to be when they actually need to study it. So the earlier and more exposure they have to all the different types of verbs, the easier it will be eventually when their conscious mind needs to learn it. Otherwise, it's kind of like, hey, let's learn this thing that you've never heard before. Time to learn all the nuts and bolts of this thing that's a total mystery to you, but we'll start from scratch. So you might have that conversation with them. Okay, so let's look at cycle 1, phase 4. So it's kind of like a behind the scenes. This might not all be perfect because this is just like a working document. So it's like I said, present versus past. And the first phase, I was like kind of a little overly ambitious and I put like 8 lessons in there. But then we kind of realized that if every phase has 8 lessons, 1, it's a lot of work, and 2, no human being can actually cover that much content in one school year if you added up all the phases and cycles. So from here on out, actually starting in cycle 1, phase 2 on out, you'll notice there's only 6 lessons. So every one of them has just 6 lessons, and then there's always at the end, this one doesn't necessarily say it, but the review lesson, which is the kid grid. And the kid grid lesson, like the mechanics of delivering that lesson are always pretty much the same, but the headers at the top of the kid grid are gonna change. So every cycle and phase will release new graphics that prompt you to add stuff to the kid grid that corresponds with the things that are being discussed. So this kid grid, I don't see it here, it's already been made because this is about to get released, but it will have probably things like, what did you like to do when you were a kid? What do you like to do now? Stuff like that. So the little graphics, you just can take them and add them if you've already started a kid grid, to your existing kid grid, or, maybe down here, like at the bottom, you have like various, like cycle 1, phase 1, cycle 1, phase 2, cycle 1, phase 3, and maybe you want to have a whole separate sheet so it doesn't get like overwhelming. in your crazy long kid grid after like the whole entire year. So the title of this lesson, basically it goes with the guided oral input. That's how I conceptualize it. So it first like topic of this first lesson is old school technology versus like now. This is a slide talk, and so that's basically just a I think it's actually a visual survey. We'll look at it in just a sec. The second lesson is a slide talk, so trends or like fads or whatever from yesterday and today. This one's about Marie Antoinette. I said we need another similar person or historical event, but I think we decided to just go with Marie Antoinette because her story is really great and it's like very clearly past versus now. If you wanted, especially if you're in curriculum club and you wanted to use the editable link that will give you to, you know, change this person, you might do that. And I could be wrong. We might be making them for other languages. I don't remember. This one is another slide talk, so it's baby picture talk. So the kids like will put their baby pictures on there, and then of course we all know what they look like now. But you could have them put a really awesome selfie from now versus a picture of them when they were a baby, or you could say toddler, kid, whatever. First grader, middle schooler, you know, it doesn't really matter. And then this is a class survey about when we were younger, and what the class, you know, liked in kindergarten, or what they liked in middle school, or what they liked in elementary school. There's several different choices depending on what level you teach, right? Because if you said what we were like in middle school and you teach third grade, well, they're not going to have too much difference because they haven't got there yet. And then this lesson, lesson 6, is actually, it's been split into 2 lessons. And I was very excited about planning this lesson. So the stuff that I planned actually is going to be broken up into several different lessons, 2 for this cycle and phase, and then some are going to go in narration and some are going to go in information. So this is a topic that we'll keep returning to again and again. Reconstruction, okay, I'm from Middle Georgia, and to me Reconstruction was like one of my favorite time periods to talk about and learn about in history, because Reconstruction is what, like, it was the time period that happened right after the Civil War. So it was a time of really great challenges. Of course, there was, you know, Civil War was a pretty traumatic experience, and then also like it was a time of like some possibilities opening up that unfortunately were quickly shut down for all Black Americans, but especially people that had just been liberated from slavery. And so there was all this cool stuff happening that you might not even like believe, like all these Black senators and all this amazing, you know, legislation that like we couldn't even pass today, that sadly mostly was like overturned and stuff. So it's a really interesting time period, and also it, because of where it is in history, it has a lot to do with this phase, because it's like before emancipation and, you know, after emancipation. So it's very apropos. This takes you to Rethinking Schools, which is where I got the original idea. The garbage truck is going by, so let's just be patient. And so it's insanely loud out here, sorry. So the reading workshop texts, in every phase, the type of text that is for the reading workshop changes. So they all hang together in that aspect. And also the topics are, sometimes the topics change, but there's always like this organizing principle that changes from phase to phase, because I don't want kids to get bored of whatever it is that you're presenting them to read. So they all have a different look visually, and they all have a different like genre or like text type. And most of the time I'm actually basing these on IB, or International Baccalaureate, text types. Not that they can't be used for everybody, but I just really wanted to give IB teachers like a lot of examples, even beginning in the first year, to expose their kids to these various text types and like their conventions. You know, like what is in a personal journal. If they just, it's not like you have to teach them that stuff, but again, it's kind of like the verbs, right? Like you're exposing them to a lot of examples, where the objective is just to read and understand and, you know, decipher the language in the text. However, like if you continue doing this and use, you know, different personal journals every year for 3 or 4 years, by the time they got to the time that they need to like start consciously learning the conventions of that text type, they will have, same with the verbs, right? They'll have like all this kind of unconscious experience and knowledge to draw from. Like, oh yeah, duh, that's what a personal journal includes. I've seen a billion of those. Like, we look at those all the time. So anyway, these ones are all infographics. So it says here Tina's infographics. Let's just check that out. So the infographics that I made, it looks like they're all in English. But anyway, some of them are about like a little bit lighter topics, because they were originally all about like race and racism, and then we were like, well, maybe we should just have some that are, you know, infographics about the content that we're studying, just to break it up. So this is about screen time. Obviously, it kind of goes with that technologies of the old school versus now. These are all level, right? So this is beginner, intermediate, and advanced. This is about, this is all just kind of like words about racism. This one has a little more information for the intermediates, and this is for the advanced. This is about the slave trade, transatlantic slave trade, or the Middle Passage, as people call it, or the passage of complete death. I think there's some other like more sort of accurate terms about how the experience was, because it was very dangerous and cruel. Notwithstanding the fact that literally, you know, the people on these slave ships had been enslaved. So that was the original, you know, horrible cruelty, but even just the trip, as you can see here, was very cruel conditions, and many people died. So this is about, it's just like a true and false about, it's kind of like anti-Islamic or Islamophobia, I suppose. This one we kind of reproduced from a French infographic that I found. This one is all about, I gotta change this a little bit because I got some feedback from people that it's a little confusing, or a little visually like jarring. This is all about trends then and now, which obviously is a topic that we talk about. This is, okay, finally, like we get something. It's not quite so like bad news, bad news, bad news. These are current legal protections against discrimination. So obviously for the beginners is basically just like a visual dictionary, which of course you could talk about. You talk about the pictures, talk about the terms, stuff like that. This is about for the intermediates, and this is for the advanced. And then here is a these pictures are not loading. It does not say approved immigration. It's like a whole bunch of stamps behind there. So this is a infographic on immigration, demographics, and stuff like that. Oh look, here's the French ones. So those are pretty cool. I'm really excited about those. They were very time consuming to make, but they're worth it. Most of the reading workshops are not quite that time consuming, so I hope you enjoy them and your kids do too. In this, and then we always have like these authentic resources which you can use, and they go along with the spinning ball of death. They go along with the reading workshop title. Well, let's hope that clears up. La la la. I hope my Loom video continues to go on. Just have some coffee so I can calm myself down. I don't like it when this happens. Let's see, maybe we should just catch up and chat. One thing that's been on my mind a lot recently is that I took a break at the end of the summer because I needed it. Oh my goodness. And while I was off, a lot of people went back to school, and also people who had started, it was like the 25th of August. A lot of people had started school before I left, but it hadn't like sunk in, you know, because like that honeymoon period, like you're all fresh and ready to go. And something that's really struck me is just people are under so much stress. So I really, really hope, I mean like breakdowns and crying and quitting the profession or taking a leave or going on anti-anxiety medication and stuff like that. So I really hope. And then I came back and I was very overwhelmed. And I always feel like I need to be doing more to help people, but I'm so tied up at making this curriculum that I don't often like appear in public anymore. It feels like I'm kind of a hermit sometimes. But I read people's comments, and I think about people and how, you know, to best support them. And honestly, I really do feel like making these resources, that's what I think is the best thing that I can do to alleviate other people's anxiety and stress. So I hope that is happening for you. Anyway, we got back to my computer, so let's go. So anyway, I was just opening up this resource, which obviously goes along with like what is racism. And so you could, with your advanced kids or even with your beginning kids, you can take a little cruise through an authentic resource. So let's look at the slideshow about technologies. It says from SI because if you came to Summer Institutes and you took the PPS, People, Places, Stories strand, then you saw your teacher using this very same resource. So that's kind of cool. It's basically just like a picture talk, and there's a lot of them, okay? Lots and lots and lots of pictures. You can delete them. You can make this happen over more than one day if you want, if the kids are interested. This is literally a genuine picture of me, well, of my Bitmoji. And this is my old apartment downtown in Portland, and we actually had this is my apartment. When we first moved here in 1999, that's where we lived for 3 years. It was a really pretty place, and it was very charming because it was built in 1915. So anyway, there's lots and lots and lots of things, even some like things about the Jetsons. Like they thought this would be in 2062. I think that it probably is already happening. So I think that's kind of cute. This denotes that nowadays when we see a telephone cabana or a box booth, I suppose, I don't know. I speak English. We are like, ooh, dude, a telephone booth. That's what it is. A telephone booth. How droll. But, you know, back in the day, they were all over. And they thought we would have telephone booths in the future, back in the 60s. They couldn't foresee that we would have all this technology in our own pockets. I really love these cars. They're super cute. And then it asks at the end, like, what do you think is going to happen in the future or technologies? This is the end of the visual survey. And this is like the survey part. These don't match up with these, okay? I used to put A, B, C, D, but then I was like, hey, if you have to say like, who likes the radio picture? You know, the picture of the picture phone. It's just like they get a little exposure to some more vocabulary in context, and it just lets you use different words that are obviously really easy for your kids to understand, because you're like, the picture of the girl with the boombox has a symbol, which is a cassette tape. The car has a symbol, which is the CD. The DJ has a symbol that's the boombox. Oh, look, she has a boombox. So anyway, it's just totally random, and you could change it to ABCD if you want, but I just figure it's good to have a little extra opportunity to put some new vocab in front of those kids' ears. This one is slide talk about like trends back in the day and now. And this is the French one. I love this. It's so cute. I'm definitely like a lover of the aesthetic from the 70s. This gives the kids, this is in a Google Slides show when it gets delivered to you. This gives the kids like some useful vocab to do the things that it says here in the instructions. And then this is like where they would do their work. So everybody's going to get an identical slide for this one. Sometimes they get a choice, but they don't in this one. And then you can go through and talk about some of them, write about them. This could last a good long time. So lesson doesn't necessarily have to mean just one class period, and you don't have to do all of them. So if you spend a whole lot of time on this and you're like, oh shoot, we're gonna have to skip Marie Antoinette, you know, c'est la vie, right? This is not actually, I don't think, a visual survey. I think it ended up being more like a, oh no, it is a visual survey, because at the end, oh no, it's not, never mind. So it's not really a visual survey, it's just like more like a lecture. So basically it goes and talks, and down here at the bottom I gave you some background information from Wikipedia. So it's like you're explaining to them like how her life was before. Oh my gosh, she had this beautiful chateau, it's so great, and she even had this like, you know, awesome hairdo, and she had this town built for her like at Versailles. And then these actually were my slides that I was using to like make the thing, so I'm just gonna move those down to the bottom because I don't think they're actually of any use. So I'm just gonna put so that people know. So anyway, all the ones that are kind of light pink are like before these are all, oh, this needs to be fixed up. Sorry, you guys. I'm glad I saw this because these are all like in progress. I didn't realize I wasn't done, but we'll finish up. These are all like when it changes to this color, these will all be after, and it's red for a reason, because, you know, her after got kind of, oh, I see. Oh, okay, boy, this needs changed. But anyway, everything changed, the revolution started, and, you know, things were burning, people were getting killed and burning things and killing things, and so then here's a whole bunch more picture talks of, you know, actually Marie Antoinette and how her life changed. And then, of course, oh no, there's her head, yikes. And that there is the end. So this is basically like what I would think of as like a 15-minute like talk. You might throw out some of the slides, and then of course you're going to review it and do write and discuss and all that. Sorry about all the noise, you guys. The baby picture talk, if you come here, these are the slides that are in a Google slideshow for the kids to, again, submit their own pictures. So when we were little and now, and here are some useful words, and here's the instructions. And then this one, they get like all kinds of choices. Like they can pick whichever one they want, or you can assign them one, and they would like put their name and upload their stuff. I just thought it was kind of fun to have all those different choices. Then lesson 5 is a class survey. And it says here about the different versions, depending on your age of your kids. And let's look at the slides. This, believe it or not, like, this is in the future for you, but this is actually in the past for me. I did this like in early August. So it's kind of nice to go back and review. So it says, you know, in kindergarten we liked this, and today we like this. We hated this in kindergarten, we liked this. So this is like a class survey. So you're like asking them, what did you hate back then? You know, I hated naps. Today I hate homework, you know. Maybe back then they liked homework, and they hate naps now. Or, you know, they hate naps now. So we were like this, we are like this, we preferred. You can pick any of these or not. You know, you're going to use one or two or all of them. We felt this way, we feel this way now. So then this one says elementary school. So you would use these instead of these if you choose to make it about elementary school. I hope you've enjoyed this. I'm going to go now.